Have you ever wanted to learn how to handle your personal finances but felt like you didn't know where to start? Well, here's the truth. Learning to manage your money is very simple, and you just need to have a few basics to get you up and running. For most people, this is where the wheels fall off. They don't ever learn the basics, or they just completely ignore them. However, for the vast majority of millionaires, they became millionaires not by creating a business or inheriting loads of money. Instead, they got there through diligence and taking simple steps. With that being said, if you knew absolutely nothing about money and had to start from zero, these are the three principles you should follow to completely change your financial outlook. My goal by the end of this video is to provide you with a simple roadmap to get you on your way with your personal finance journey, no matter where you are starting today. With that, the first principle is to live below your means. If there's one step or one principle that is absolutely necessary to master financial literacy, it's to learn to live below your means. Or, in other words, learn to live on less money than you make. Sounds like common sense, right? Well, not exactly. 69% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, meaning they spend everything that comes in, and roughly 50% of Americans are carrying credit card debt, which is an indicator they are spending more money than they can pay off. So, clearly, it's not something that everybody just knows inherently. But if you want to feel any forward progress with your finances, you have to do this. Practically speaking, these are the steps you can take to figure this out. First, track your income and expenses over the next 30 days. Make notes of how much money you have coming in and how much you have going out. Once you get to the end of the 30 days, compare how much you spent versus how much you made. Ideally, you will have been more conscious of your spending and found that you spent less than you made. The second thing you can do at this stage is to look at those expenses and cut out the obvious flaws in your spending, such as unused subscriptions, delivery food services, etc. Whatever it is, you need to find a way to spend less than you make so that you can use your leftover money to put it towards your savings and investments. Now, once you got your finances under control, you don't want to revert to your old habits. That's why the second principle is to keep your finances organized by budgeting. Budgeting is something that is easier than you might think, and it's the best way I've found to keep tabs on your money. The reason it is so important is that if you are habitually looking at your finances and paying attention to the various aspects, from spending to earning to saving, then you are less likely to lose control. Knowing where you're at with your money informs you on what financial decisions to make next. To get started with budgeting, you can do it however you like, whether that's writing it down with pen and paper or using an app, or my preference of using a basic spreadsheet. Which, if you want to use the same spreadsheet I use, I will leave a link down in the description where you can make a copy of your own for free. No matter which method you choose, there's a few things you need to make sure to do. 1. Make sure to first allocate your money to all the various things that are necessities. Think rent, groceries, insurance. Then, you can allocate to your wants after that. Secondly, make sure to compare your actual income and expenses to your budget amounts at least once a month. There's no point in creating a budget and never touching it again. You need to actually see if you're sticking with it, and if not, make the necessary adjustments. You don't have to do this every day or every week, but I think a monthly check-in is a good cadence for really understanding your money. And then once you've figured out how to live below your means and how to budget for current spending, you will find that you have money left over. Now, what most people go and do with their extra money is they just store it away in a typical savings account with a bank like Bank of America or Chase. However, there's a better thing to do with your extra money, and that is to invest it, which leads us to principle number 3, which is to invest early and often. Now, right off the bat, don't get scared by the thought of investing. It's way easier than it might seem. Investing is just the process of purchasing assets, ideally appreciating assets such as stocks or real estate, with the goal of making a profit. If you're at the beginning of your financial journey, and probably for a good amount of time after that, the most attainable and realistic way to invest is to by purchasing stocks or ETFs. Things like real estate might have a place and time down the line, but for now, it's easier just to focus on these. But how do you actually go about doing this? These days, there are plenty of brokerages such as Robinhood or Fidelity where you can open up an account for free. Once you've signed up for an account, you can deposit your money in it and buy stocks, crypto, or ETFs. Here is where you should spend some time researching, but the easiest and typically most reliable thing to invest in would be ETFs that track the S&P 500 rather than individual stocks. ETFs or exchange traded funds are baskets of investments that allow you to spread your money across multiple stocks. For example, VU is an ETF where when you buy a share, you are actually buying a small portion of the 500 biggest companies in the United States, which diversifies your portfolio. When you buy a single stock, your money will rise and fall with that one stock, which can be dangerous if the stock performs poorly. With an ETF, you're much less likely to lose money if a singular stock drops in price because there are another 499 that are keeping the price up. ETFs that track the S&P 500 generally perform well with an average return of around 8.5% a year over the last 20 years. Something to note here is that when you go and buy investments of your own, make sure to take a little bit of time to look into each one so you know what you're buying into. But now that we understand the basics of investing, we need to understand why we need to invest both early and often. In finance, there's this term called compound interest, which is the money you earn on both your initial investment as well as the interest it has already earned. Broken down simply, if you invest $10 and earn a 10% return in the first year, you will have $11. Then, let's say you earn another 10% in the second year. You will earn 10% on your initial $10 as well as 10% on your $1 of interest, meaning this time you make $1.10. Now, this might not seem like much, but using this concept, we're going to show how big of an impact it can have on your finances in the long run. So, let's say you invest $500 a month for 40 years and earn an average return of 7%. You will end up investing $240,000, but you would have a whopping $1.2 million, which is just incredible. Maybe though, you think it doesn't matter if you wait 10 years from now to start investing. However, under the same conditions of investing $500 a month, earning 7% a year, but this time for just 30 years, you would have just under $560,000. That means that waiting 10 years, or a quarter of the time, costs you over half of the money. And this is why you should start as soon as possible. Even if you feel like you're already late, starting right now is going to be your best opportunity, so just rip off the band-aid and start now. There we have it. Those are the 3 principles to start you out on your personal finance journey, and I'm confident that this roadmap works because thousands of millionaires have done the same exact thing before us. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing and check out this video over here that YouTube thinks you might like as well.